Suzanne Giesemann, you are so welcome to Livsenergi. I'm very happy to meet you here today.
Thank you. Same here. I can feel beautiful energy already.
Yeah, me too. And we are here to talk about you, your life, and your way to where you are today, because you have written this very, very beautiful book that we are just about to launch in our book club, Den medvetna vägen. Thank you for writing this. It's a really good handbook in life.
In fact, I wanted it to be called a handbook.
Yeah.
Originally. Yes. Yeah.
Great. So you have a history that I have never encountered before. I bet you've heard that before also. But we are, for the audience of Livsenergi who are all spiritually interested, it's an honor to hear that kind of story that you carry, because it gives us hope that our interest will actually be okay and accepted in a wider perspective going forward. So can you tell us a little bit about your background?
Yes, well, I know that what you are referring to as far as what you would not expect is that before I embarked on a spiritual path, my career history was that of a Navy officer. I spent 20 years in the U.S. Navy, and I retired with the rank of commander. And I served as a commanding officer and as a special assistant to the head of the Navy, and then ultimately the head of the entire United States Armed Forces. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff personally asked me to be his aide de camp, we say. And so I got to serve at the absolute highest level of the military, and I flew on the Air Force One aircraft with the president, and I flew around the world with the chairman, meeting kings and queens. I sat in on top secret meetings on Capitol Hill, and never expected to be on a spiritual path.
Yeah. So during this time, and it was a lot of years you were in the Navy, you had no feeling or no sense of connection with the spiritual realm?
None whatsoever. I just thought that I was very detail-oriented and guided by just thinking ahead. I didn't realize it was an intuitive guidance that was leading me. I see now, looking back, that this was actually part of a much bigger plan at the soul level. Because of the work I'm doing now and the numbers of people that I'm reaching people who want to believe that any of us can connect with a greater reality, that all of us have this connection with more than this physical life. And they look at my background, and it gives credibility to my teaching, and it allows people to believe that if I can do what I do, they can too.
Yeah. And I think that you're right. A lot of the audience or the members in the book club are already very much intuitives and mediums and so on and so forth. But there are also a lot of people who want to learn how to connect and want to have insurance, be insured that there is a spiritual realm.
I can guarantee there is a spiritual realm from the depth of personal experience I've had over the last 18 years. So my goal is for other people to have their own personal experience so that they know that it's real.
Yeah. And you talk a lot about knowing rather than believing, don't you? Yeah.
Oh, yes, it's very important because belief has an element of doubt. It requires trust, whereas knowing, you don't have to trust. You just know it. That's a certainty that carries you forward.
Yeah. I can sense that from your experience in the Navy and from whatever you have done in the past, you have had to be determined, like, this is the way it is. You can't stand there and choose, right? So I
That's
guess
right.
that's a really good point to make, even in our lives, to just make sure that you actually know, like believe that you know.
Well, we can set it as an intention because it is a process. For example, as I began to communicate with those in the spirit world, at first it was hard to believe, but I couldn't deny the evidence I was getting. And I realized that there's this voice in my head that's always saying, what if this is wrong? Or can this possibly be true? And I just learned to acknowledge that voice and set it aside. And so that trust that comes from the soul overcame that voice, which still pops up because that's part of the brain's programming. But you make the choice to just not listen to it.
Yeah. Good recommendation. We'll take that. So if looking back, what happened? What made you find spirit? If you could say that.
Right. It was really two major events in my life. The first one was being in the last aircraft on 9/11 in US airspace and turning around over the Atlantic Ocean. I was with the general and coming back and flying over Manhattan and seeing the smoke coming up from what were the World Trade Center towers, and coming back to our office building, the Pentagon, and seeing with my own eyes the devastation, stepping over jet engine pieces on the ground, and just questioning why some people die before a full life. Why would other people hurt other people? Just questioning, asking deep spiritual questions that I had not previously asked. I didn't get satisfactory answers at the time, so I set that aside. But then several years later, 5 years later, my stepdaughter, Susan, was struck and killed by lightning. It's very interesting that the day we're doing this interview here in the United States is Memorial Day, when we honor those who were killed on active duty. And my stepdaughter was a sergeant in the Marine Corps crossing the flight line on duty when she was killed. So it's a very special day for us. My husband was also a Navy captain, and we know a lot of people who were killed on active duty, but Susan's death just propelled me in this completely unexpected direction.
Yeah, she was much too young.
Mm.
Yeah.
But she's still here. I sense her here in my energy field all the time now. We can just communicate anytime, and it's a beautiful thing. She and I together have literally touched millions of lives, which is something I never expected, but she knew it.
She knew it. Was she spiritual in life?
She was at the end of her short life, 27 years old when she died, but she kept it to herself. I saw signs of it at her wedding when she brought spiritual aspects into the ceremony that caused me to say, wow, where's that coming from? But I see now that her soul knew things beyond what the rest of the family was aware of at the time.
Yeah. Wow. How beautiful. It's beautiful to hear what kind of relationship you had also. She must have touched your life in ways that you had no clue would come.
Oh, yes. But the moment that was so transformational for me was at her funeral, seeing her body in the coffin and having the realization that there is a part of all of us that gives the body life. That's the soul, the spirit. And when that was not present in her body, she looked completely different. It wasn't her. That was the vessel. And that's when I knew that she had to still exist. And I had a new mission. I'm going to find her. Yeah. So there's where the military background came in, and the commitment and the dedication and the discipline that it took to find her opened me up to the whole greater reality.
Wow. So we know about Susan. We know about you having some kind of awakening. When did you have your first encounter with spirit that you felt this, okay, so this is something new?
I began having experiences in my daily meditation that I began as my way of connecting with Susan. This was in 2006, before meditation was as mainstream as it is now. I didn't expect to have expanded experiences. My sole focus was to sense Susan. I didn't realize that was training me in expanded states of consciousness. So I became more intuitive fairly quickly. But I didn't realize that I was creating the perfect field of energy to connect with other spirits who had passed. So the moment that really showed me that I could tap into higher consciousness was when I sat in a class by a medium who had asked me to write her book. Her name was Janet No Havoc. She has since passed. Oh, but she's still right here too, of course. And she described systems that anybody can use to connect with spirits. And I was fascinated by that. You mean we can use processes to connect to spirit? And I was sitting in the class just to take notes about her. But she told the class, there's a spirit here now. Suzanne, why don't you come to the front of the room and see if you can connect? I was so caught off guard and wanted to escape, but the Navy officer in me said, well, I'm not going to say no, I have to do this. So I didn't know what to do. And I stood in the front of the room and she asked me to use the process of discerning specific facts about this spirit. She gave nothing away. And I didn't sense any presence, but I pulled information about this man that a woman in the class was able to identify as her father. The age at which he died, the job he did, how he died, what he looked like. I was stunned, but I felt like I was pulling data out of the air. And then Janet brought through specific facts about his life that really showed me he was there. I was so fascinated that I got that data that I decided to dive in more and took all of Janet's classes myself and set the goal that I'm not going to keep doing this unless I feel the spirits. And that just opened up. And now it has developed into two-way interactive real-time conversations with sentient, creative, clever, loving beings. It's a beautiful
Fantastic.
thing. Yeah.
And just by determination, I sense, since you just decided, I'm going to find Susan wherever she is.
That's right. It opened up into so much more. And that opened up into sensing guides and higher beings and getting evidence from them that convinces me that, of course, they're conscious and intelligent and creative, and they will work with us.
Wow. And ever since, so 2006, right? So
Right.
ever since, what have your life been about?
My entire life has been consumed now with helping other people know that we are not only human. This is the premise of the book, that we are souls in a human body, which many people understand now, but having the personal experience of that, experiencing yourself as a soul, and as the subtitle says, making that shift throughout the day to be consciously connected to higher guidance, to our higher self, and to be guided moment by moment by that. When we do that, we become more loving, more kind and compassionate to others. We can find peace in a moment. It doesn't make our lives necessarily easier, but we can access peace when we need it. Because the soul didn't come here to have an easy time. The soul didn't come here to only be happy. The soul came here for the full experience of being human and for the growth that ensues from that. So that's what my life has become. It's about helping people understand that and walking the talk, as we say, to find what in me is not aligned with the soul, to heal that. And that improves my connection. That improves my teaching. That helps other people. It's just this beautiful spiral of growth that I can model and share with others. I just love this life.
I can tell you look very genuine when you talk about this. And I think that's what's so fascinating about you.
Yeah.
Your whole package is just perfect for the time we're being in right now, to
Yeah.
give hope.
Well, it's a plan. I know it's a plan, so I'm on purpose.
Yes, you are. So, how is Susan in spirit world?
Oh, she's vibrant and fun and funny and helpful.
Great.
And she says she's loving life too, because it sure doesn't end when the body dies.
Oh, God, thank you. We don't want that. So, this book, is this your first book?
No, that's my 14th book.
14th? What have
Yes.
I missed? So this is your first book, perhaps with Hay House then?
It is. That's
Yeah.
right. And the 15th just comes out in a week or two. Yeah. You've missed. At first, I wrote about things that I was passionate about before I got on the spiritual path. So boating, because we were full-time sailors for a while, and one book on overcoming cravings. And then once I discovered that the greater reality is real, I wrote several biographies of very excellent mediums. I have a couple books of inspired messages. I have my memoir. And my favorite book before this one, of course, is called Wolf's Message, which provides absolute proof of the greater reality, which was just turned into a documentary, which is now online at wolfsmessage.com. And the reason I'm in my bus right now is we're taking Wolf's Message film around the US, showing it at screenings all over the country.
Wow.
It is Wolf's Message was the impetus for that book, The Awakened Way. He was a young man who was struck and killed by lightning, just like Susan, but he left proof that he knew it was going to happen, and when and where. And he came back through me with messages for all of us, and the messages became the conscious way of living, the awakened way.
Yeah, because this is also a concept that, so we are calling the book Den medvetna vägen. In English, it's called The Awakened Way. And that's a concept that you work with. Yeah.
Yes.
And what is that concept?
To awaken is to realize you are not only human. It's to realize you're part of one web connecting all that is. And the more you realize that, the more the web becomes evident in your life, and you recognize the connections. And then you realize that because everything is connected, we are love manifest. And that becomes a way of living as well, being the presence of love.
Yeah. Why do you, this is a reoccurring thing that we talk about in this podcast with other people, etc., that we are love manifested. So why, if that's true, so that is true, why is it then, do you think, so hard for us to realize that, to actually believe it?
I have channeled so many messages about this, had so many conversations with my guides over the years about this. And it's because we as souls came here knowing we were going to incarnate in these bodies with a brain that would filter out our access to all of the field that we're part of. And when that happens, we become very focused only on what we get through the senses. Yeah. And the more you get drawn in by what the senses show you and how they can deceive you, you forget that we're part of this bigger web. It's just a byproduct of the way the brain operates. But there's always that light within us, the soul's prompting and nudging, that source of love that says, there's more. And that's what keeps us seeking. And the finding just happens when you realize it's right here, right now. The subtitle of the movie Wolf's Message is Two Worlds, One Heart. But actually, this is part of the paradox of being human. There are two worlds, yes, and it's only one world. That's the both and aspect of life in human form. We are both human and a soul. So we get to choose from moment to moment which aspect of ourself we're going to focus on. We can continue to be forgetful that we're all connected, and then we do things that hurt each other, or we make that shift and say, wait, I'm a soul, they're a soul, we're all one in the one sea of consciousness. You may think differently than I do or look differently than I do, but at the heart level, I know we're both love and expression. So it becomes a choice that we make to overcome the brain's programming.
Yeah. That's a very good explanation. Thank you. It gives perspective, new perspective than just, what I've heard before.
Well, this is why people are enjoying the book, because I've spent years learning how to explain these concepts very simply and using metaphors and analogies and evidence so that people grasp what they already know at the soul level. So the whole first half of the book is that foundational information in an easy to understand yet deep way that speaks to the heart. And then the second half is filled with practices to help make that information part of your daily life.
So there was a reason why you wrote this book. What is it that you want people to bring with them, to take away from reading it or using it?
I would love if they, as they read it, feel how their soul, their energy field is actually coming into alignment with the vibration of the words. It will raise your consciousness just by reading it. And then as you actually do the practices in the second half, this repatterns your way of thinking and being so that you actually do experience changes and transformation.
So you teach so many students in the awakened way. What is the biggest? I don't know if that's if that's something that you can answer, but why do people come to you? What is the biggest reason they come to you? What is it that they want to change?
I have a nickname, the messenger of hope.
Yeah.
People hope that there's something more. They hope that their loved ones who have died are not dead and gone. They hope that they can establish a connection with the higher reality. They look at my story and they find hope. Yeah. Then I give them practical tools how to do it. And there's also a vibration that people feel that they can't identify. So I know that I also act as a kind of tuning fork. I don't claim this personally. It's a spirit thing. I've just seen the effect that it has on people, and I'm grateful for it. I give all that credit to spirit. But if people come with hope and they find truth and the knowing, then we've accomplished our mission.
You look very young, so you must have left the Navy when you, before you should have, kind of, right?
I will tell you that is an artifact of Zoom that takes out all the wrinkles. If you watch the movie Wolf's Message, you'll see that I look much more my age. I'm actually 63.
63, but that's no age. Well, anyways, you could have worked longer in the Navy. There was a reason why you left early, wasn't it?
Well, 20 years is the minimum required to retire. And because of 9/11, my husband and I had this dream of sailing full-time on our sailboat, and we accomplished that goal, but I retired with 20 years to the date. I could have stayed longer, but I knew my soul was calling me to something more.
Yeah. So you have been
I didn't know it consciously then.
No, but Was it the boat experience, the year on the boat, or the time on the boat? Was that a helpful transition, you think?
It's very interesting looking back on it, because the first 6 months were very challenging, because as a lot of humans are, I was wrapped up in my identity. I'm a commander, Commander Giesemann, and I have my rank and my ribbons, and suddenly I'm nobody. I look back on that and I see that's the way the ego works. I didn't walk around saying I'm a commander, but that was what gave me a sense of purpose and meaning and worth. And suddenly I'm in remote places on a boat with my husband, no people around. I didn't know any more than that. And it was shattering.
Yeah.
And I just didn't know how to deal with that. I needed a purpose.
Yeah.
And it needed to be serving others. And boy, the universe just dropped it right into my lap, and it threw tragedy. But now I don't need titles. I don't need followers. I don't want to be a guru. I just hope to radiate the love that I want other people to feel.
Yeah.
It's just this journey when you get rid of the ego is personally satisfying at a level I never imagined.
Yeah. I think I can see that being a challenge. Especially in our society, the ego is, I'm thinking you have opened up on a level that most people will never. And even though they might think they want to, but there are so many people around us who are not even interested in being open.
Yeah, and it's frustrating, especially when people, many of your group, I'm sure, have partners that don't share that interest with them. And so it's great to have a club like yours where you find kindred spirits and can share what you know. And I used to be frustrated. At first you feel when you open up to abilities, you have to share this with the world. You're here to change the world, until you realize the world is perfectly fine and evolving like a plant that grows. You can't speed it up, but you can contribute. And just like you add a little fertilizer or just the right amount of water. So that's what I'm doing. I know the world is fine. I don't any longer feel an urgency that I have to share this with people. I'm so gratified when people find it and it helps them. It's just it's a sense of peace that comes as we go through our individual process.
Yeah.
So that's what I hope people find.
Yeah. So is there do you have like a daily routine for being in your zone?
I absolutely do. And with the support of my husband, I get to carry that out. The routine is that every morning we get up, we walk our dogs, and then immediately I go into meditation. And I connect with my guides and I ask for anything I need to know. And then I ask the guides to give me a daily message that will inspire others. And we call those the Awakened Way messages. I have a beautiful free app called Awakened Way. And wow, 60,000 people now have downloaded it. And they're inspired every day, plus tens of thousands who read it on my Facebook page and on my website page. But that daily connection keeps me in that state of knowing. Because if we go even a few days without meditation, we start to feel disconnected.
Yeah.
So it's very important to establish a habit, even if it's only 5 minutes a day, of sitting quietly and acknowledging, I am the light of consciousness. I have a practice that's in the book and on YouTube called the Sip of the Divine. That's just 3 minutes a day. If people could establish a practice of 3 minutes a day, it's cumulative. It changes your energy field, and it will ultimately change you and your sense of connection.
That's great. Is that the one you're doing every day? 3 minutes.
No, let's see. It's part of what I do. I do more my bless me method that's also in the book, a 7-step process to go from normal waking consciousness to the optimal state of consciousness, expanded state, for coming into resonance with higher beings.
Yeah.
That's what we need, is resonating with that higher vibration. And it requires us to have a coherent field ourselves, not scattered. And so that daily practice creates that coherence and brings us into resonance with the higher vibrations. It's a natural byproduct of that. If we don't have a daily practice of presence or meditation, then we're not coherent. There's a reason in English we say incoherent. It's incoherent. That's not centered. So any practice that will help us be centered is naturally going to get that left hemisphere of the brain that keeps us feeling separate out of the way and activate the right hemisphere of the brain, which brings us into a state of flow and connection.
Have you read a lot about this, or how did you dive into the spiritual world? Did you practice yourself into it, or did you read yourself into it? What's your...
A beautiful synthesis of the two, the daily meditation, channeling sessions, and then being guided to what to read. Once I became more connected with my guides and my higher self, I would say, what do you want me to read next? Because that's a fast way. And you can really, go down different paths, and I would be brought right back. I would get a morning message from the guides meant for everybody. And in the evening, I might have 5 books that I'm reading, and I would ask them, which book do you want me to read tonight? And there would be the exact words from the morning message. It's just the way the universe reinforces that we're on the right path.
It's lovely to follow your path like this. It's I'm just fascinated by the entire thing. So what about, how did you get into the Navy? What was that plan? Is that part of your family, perhaps?
My brother is 14 years older than I am, and he joined the Air Force when I was 5. And visiting him on the bases and seeing how he got to travel around the world, I said, that's for me. I loved the sense of service to others that brought. There are a lot of people who think the military, and they think it's all warlike, and perhaps for some men, a lot of men who joined, it's all about fighting. For me, it was service to our country. That's imbued in you as a human, at least in our country. And so to me, that was an honorable thing to do. And so I decided to go in right out of college with a commission as an officer. And that's what I did. I had a training at an officer candidate school and went straight into my career.
Yeah. It's fantastic. And now we have you here sitting in front of us. That's a madam of your rank. It's fantastic. Yeah. And I think it's fantastic that there are people like you who can actually, we need you. We need all these people who actually show that there is paths. We can choose our paths, no matter our history, our situation.
That's
we
right.
can choose our path. Yeah.
Moment by moment, it's already in your soul's awareness why you came here. And it may not be a great change the world path, but your soul knows what your passion is. So identify that. How can you serve others and fulfill your own satisfaction at the same time? It could be in your day-to-day job, but follow your passion, follow your heart.
So where in the world are you right now? So you're on a bus tour. Where?
Yes. I'm in Western New York State. Just yesterday, we showed Wolf's Message at Lilydale, which is a community of mediums.
Oh.
And Yeah, the people come from all over the country to see this place. It's a very unique place. And so we had 250 people who came out to see the movie, and now we're moving on to the state of Ohio, and we have 3 screenings in the next week. So we're going across the north part of the country, then we're going down into the center.
It's a lovely thing. So how many places are you touching down to?
Ultimately about 30, I think, personal screenings. Even though people can see the movie online now, it's an experience to have several hundred people come together in that beautiful energy. And then we show the movie, which is about an hour, and then I talk about it and the meaning and what we can do with what that movie shares with us as a result of watching it. So it becomes an event, and it's very inspiring to be part of this. You know, our country is 3,000 miles across. I don't know how many that is in kilometers, but the tour my husband put together actually has us covering over 7 months, 12,000 miles in this bus.
7 months, that's a long time.
It is. It's a long time, but it's a mission, and it's fun. We meet people all along the way.
Yeah, I can imagine. So, where is home for you when you go back home?
We have our home in Hilton Head, South Carolina. It's a beautiful place with lots of water around it. I need the water.
Yeah. So you're close to the ocean as well, right?
Very close, and lots of rivers and marshes. It's beautiful.
Yeah. So your next book, your 15th book, the one coming out after this one, I've actually seen it, and I am going to read the manuscript as well.
Yes, that's called Making the Afterlife Connection. And that tells my whole story with a lot of evidence from the other side and exercises at the end of every chapter so people can start to apply what I experienced in their own life.
Exactly. And I think, do you think that's a good follow-up for this one, or is it, what kind of book is it?
Oh, it's a perfect follow-up to that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I made sure that the exercises in that one are different than the ones in that. Yeah. So that they have scientifically proven that hearing other people's stories opens us up to a greater opportunity of having such experiences ourselves. Mm-hmm. If we can't imagine that something is possible, it won't become our reality as likely as if we say, well, if that happened to her or him, then maybe I can have that kind of experience. So my book is filled with what I call no other explanation moments of connecting with higher consciousness.
Yeah. Yeah. Those kind of books, our readers love them. And I do too. And I always cry, and I always have a very warm heart and lots of hope when reading them. Mm.
Well, that crying is the way the soul makes its presence known, saying, you're crying because you know this is truth. It resonates with the soul.
Yeah. And a lot of aha moments. Mm. Mm-hmm.
For sure.
So what's your next book? Are you writing more books, do you think?
I just finished one. It'll come out next year. It's another Hay House book.
Yeah.
And it's called Always Connected. Yeah. Mm-hmm. How to find comfort, clarity, and direction or guidance from the spirit within.
So if we're lucky, we will follow you, like Sweden will follow your book publishings a few years from now, perhaps.
Oh, well, they just keep coming. That's the beautiful thing about once we learn to connect with spirit. I lead webinars every month. In fact, I have quite a few people in Sweden that follow. They may stay up late to watch because it's late in the US, or they catch the recording later. But I have done these for 7 years. Every month there's new teaching and new evidence from the spirit world, because when you tap into the greater reality, you tap into the limitless information that's available to all of us. So my teaching is part of it always the same, but always new. And I just feel so blessed to have made that connection. And my goal is to share with other people how to make that connection as well.
So how did you become a writer?
I knew as a young girl, age 12, I have to write a book, but I had no life experience. So that was absolutely part of my plan. It was in me all along. And I tried writing, but it didn't have any weight to it. And then at age 31, I finally discovered why I had struggled with food for so many years. I turned to food for comfort, and I felt out of control. I was never overweight, but I felt food controlled me until I discovered why I was turning to food. And suddenly I said, now I have something to write about. And that became my first book, Conquer Your Cravings. It's out of print now. And I've come so far since then. But that's when I had this realization, yes, I was supposed to write. And that trained me in the discipline of completing a book. And that's why now it still takes 6 months to write a book, but I stay with it. And I have so much that Spirit gives me to share that's clearly part of my path.
So do you think that, this book, I don't sense that it's channeled really. It's collected material from you and whoever supports you.
That book was absolutely written in a state of flow. Every time I sat to write, I asked my guides to inspire me. It definitely comes from Suzanne Giesemann's point of view as Spirit shares it. Unlike the book that I just turned over to Hay House, Always Connected, much of that is separated into my writing and channeled writing, which has a different feel.
Yeah, it does. Everything is nice though, so we need
good.
a good mix of things, and
Yes.
so yeah, I'm looking forward to read your next books as well. So
Thank you. But as if I could say, as I go back and read certain pages in the book that you're talking about today, I know I was connected when I wrote it because it came out so beautifully. And you just say, wow, that's not me. It's a collaborative effort.
yeah. But don't you also think that sometimes you go back and look at your own writing and you read, I write a lot too, and you realize that you are amazed that you could actually create that kind of sentence or meaning or message or
That's exactly what I'm getting at. And that's when I know we were inspired.
yeah, of course. I turn to Spirit when I find it hard to have something to write, and it always helps. Yeah.
Oh, yes. Yeah. And that's what this book will help people to do, to realize you are connected. You're consciously connected now, though. And it becomes a partnership with Spirit. And you realize you're guided and you're not alone and you can turn to Spirit. And that changes everything.
Mm. So when you are out of tune, so we still live in this world. We have 2 feet on the ground. We do get out of tune with our connection. What do you do? Do you have a go-to?
Absolutely. Yes,
Yeah.
I have a whole section in that book called About Energetic Hygiene. And I have a specific practice where I go through our 7 energy centers and clear them. That's my main go-to if I'm disconnected. Multiple other practices in the book, but it's being aware that you're not connected and then working with your own thoughts and your energy field to up level them.
Yeah. So what we hear now from this interview with you, this book, den medvetna vägen, the awakened way. So we had a discussion about the title. Was it about being awake, like awakened, or was it about consciousness? And we decided that consciousness was the best for this version. I hope that you agree.
Oh, I do completely agree with that. Yes.
Good. So, and awakened, it's kind of the same, but it could also be very different. When we talk about this book, this is a very, very inspirational book, but full of exercises and examples of how to become more in tune and connected to the spirit world. Yeah. Is that a good summary?
It's perfect. Yes. Couldn't have said it better.
Yeah. So you have a connection to Sweden, don't you?
Well, I've been there once on a trip, and I'm coming back to begin a cruise there in just a month. So it's just a lovely water, another country with water that's just beautiful. But I believe that's my only connection, other than beautiful members of our Awaken Way community who live there.
Yeah, I remember when you emailed me, you told me this, and I figured, yeah, that's a funny coincidence, or so to say. So you've been to Stockholm, right?
Yes. Beautiful, beautiful city.
Yeah, it is. Lots of water here. So
we came
what you actually see here is water from Stockholm.
I saw it out the window, but we were there in March, and there was a lot of the water was frozen over, a lot of snow. Yeah, but beautiful.
Yeah. So I think this is your first book being translated into Swedish.
It is. That's why I was so thrilled to see the copy of it there. It's part of my mission that the messages get out around the world, and that to me is evidence that it's happening.
Yeah. I hope that we will have more Swedish books from you.
Well, I hope so too. So that's going to depend on if they resonate with the readers of this one.
Yeah, I believe it will. And I was wondering if there is anything special you want to say now when you have the audience in front of you. Is there something you want to say to your Swedish friends?
Yes, definitely. That beneath our country of origin, our culture, our identity, all of us share this same spiritual core, where there is no story, there's just connection. And that's what makes it possible for all of us to expand our awareness and tap into this beautiful space of knowing we're connected, knowing we're not alone, that ultimately we all are the same deep inside, and finding that is absolutely joyous. So I'm glad that we're feeling that connection now.
Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Suzanne, I'm going to let you move on with your wolf tour. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much for giving me this time and being so fast in response and open to meet me and do this interview. Thank you so much. It means a lot. I'm
just really grateful for the opportunity. Thanks for reaching out.
And hopefully we'll see you again, and perhaps you will have another reason to come to Sweden.
I hope so too.
Yeah.
Terrific.
Good, great. So have a wonderful day and a wonderful rest of the tour.
Thank you so much. We're going to go out hiking this afternoon because, getting out in nature is the best.
The best. I totally agree with that.
Yes. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.